All right, guys, Luigi Mangione, as you guys know, he assassinated a healthcare CEO. Now, he has been made the subject of a major debate between, are healthcare companies evil? That's one of them, which the answer is yes. Not really up for debate, but it's still being debated. And what was the ethics of what he did? Now, let's talk about this. I think what he actually did, you're going to have a very hard time justifying murder. I think self-defense is a case where people who take the life of someone else can be absolved of their deed. Oftentimes, I think if you look at when Kyle Rittenhouse was brought to a point where he had to use deadly force, it made sense. I think legally the courts agreed. I think if you look at many cases of self-defense, the use of deadly force, and it was proportional and it made sense, right? Luigi Mangione just straight up murdered and executed a CEO. I do think the ethics behind what he did are not something insane. If you look at the reasoning there, it does make sense. The logic is logicking. This person that he killed was the CEO of a major healthcare company that was notorious for denying the claims of those who needed to be insured. And I think that is fucking evil. That is an insanely evil thing. And I think they do this and they ruin people's lives for profit. And I think specifically with this case, you looked at the United Healthcare, and they had recently implemented a policy change where they were using AI to automatically dismiss claims, which I think is the most dystopian and sickening thing that a healthcare company could possibly do. And so, look, I think maybe not his life deserved to be taken. I don't know. I wouldn't say that he deserved to be killed. I do think that if you look at the reality of what the business is, there was bound to be some sort of retaliation from an angry enough customer. He got fucked by this guy in his company. I think absolutely he was bound to do something. Someone's going to get angry enough and they're going to do something like that. And this isn't going to go away. I think there will be another instance of some sort of company. Maybe it's maybe an AI car company hits a family, and the CEOs of that just don't do anything. They don't change. They don't do anything different. And, that CEO will become a target. Whenever you're fucking with people's livelihood for profit, there's going to be a certain type of person, especially who is well informed on the politics and the back end of this stuff, that they're going to take it into their own hands. But anyway, let's get into what we're talking about today. So Hannity-Lorenz is a journalist who has a long-standing beef with Twitter user Libs of TikTok. And she was recently doing some journalism for CNN and decided to randomly simp for Luigi Mangione during this segment. Now, I think Luigi Mangione, from a understanding where he's coming from perspective, that's one thing. I think if you want to sit there and tell me why you agree with his principle and the outrage, I can sit down and I can understand you. I think if you look at Luigi Mangione as a sex symbol, you're a fucking retard, That's where I'm coming from. I think if you look at him and then you view him as someone who should be made into a poster and hung up in your room, you're a fucking retard. That's the problem. And I think if you specifically even bring that up when referring to, him as a person, it's sort of oh, okay, you told on yourself. A bit of a Freudian slip. If at all you're mentioning his looks in the conversation about what took place, you're self-reporting that his heightened physical characteristics are something that should influence the way in which this is perceived, which is fucking stupid. Okay, it's fucking stupid. Hannity-Lorenz declares love for Luigi Mangione.
So you're going to see women.
No one deserved to die because of their corporate position, but at the same time, they had to be held accountable for their representation of the actions that were taken under them. I think that's of course, yeah, because when you're overseeing that sort of operation, there's a level of, I think, gentle touch and finesse you have to do in keeping the machine working in a way that is ethical, which just didn't take place.
Women especially that feel oh my God, right? Here's this man. So you're going to see women especially that feel oh my God, right? Here's this man who's revolutionary, who's famous, who's handsome, who's young, who's...
Are you fucking serious, dude?
Smart. He's a person.
This is the journalism. Dude, fuck journos, man. Journos? Is it journos? Journos, whatever. Journos. Journalists like this who absolutely minimize Luigi Mangione as this is the adjectives. These are the characteristics she listed.
Famous,
famous,
handsome,
famous and handsome. Oh, okay. We're not talking about Chris Evans. We're not talking about Henry Cavill, Superman.
Who's young,
who's young. He's young and famous and hot. What the fuck is this?
Smart.
He didn't do that for this. As a matter of fact, Luigi Mangione most likely is seeing all the people simping for him and begging them to shut the fuck up and listen to what he did and why he did it. This bitch is over here with CNN watermarked in the bottom right corner and yapping about how wet she is for this fucking killer.
Revolutionary, who's famous, who's handsome, who's young,
who's circumcised, then he could put it in me. And this fucking, bro, and then you got this guy right here. Yeah, it's great. It's great. I love it. I agree. They're getting paid for this, by the way.
smart. He's a person that seems like this morally good man, which is
what, hot?
Hard to find.
Agreed. I mean, also let's keep it a buck. Imagine being the guy. It's one thing to be her. We're gonna get into that. Like we'll talk about you in a second. To be this little Pillsbury doughboy and to be sitting here and then just like, yeah, I agree. You need to go home. Yeah, agreed. People like this almost groom an entire audience into a mentally ill way of thinking. Look, they're CNN approved. This is CNN approved content. This is stuff that they want people to see, and they're monetizing it. So I almost think that by pushing the goalpost in a way that makes it so that this is approved, what they're trying to do is set a standard so that the quality of journalism they have to do is lower. So basically, like if we do enough of this stuff, you'll get so used to it that when we go even further, it won't seem like we've gone that far.
Good man, which is hard to find.
Like what is so funny? You know, I'm just gonna say it actually. Because you know what, at this point, I have no reason not to say this. I don't want to get anyone in trouble. But I actually met this woman. So last summer, there's a convention, it's called VidCon. A lot of YouTubers go and they meet up with their friends. So I actually met a lot of my friends, and I'll just say that there was a party that I was at, and she was there, and you know, she's an insane person. Someone told me that she was at this party. I didn't believe them. And then I walked in and I was like, holy shit. Because they were leaving, and as they're leaving, they're like, yo, don't go in there. I'm like, why? And they go, oh, Taylor-Lorenz is in there. I'm like, no, she's not. That's fucking like good one. I walk in, I'm like, oh my God, she's there. Mask on and everything. Shocking.
Oh my, get
that is real as well. I'm not even fucking with you.
Guys, it's hilarious.
You know what else is funny? You want to know who I walked into that party with? Of all people, think before you sleep.
Because he's such a morally good man, which is so hard to find, that murdered somebody in cold blood by shooting him in the back in the streets of Manhattan because he was the CEO of a company that he didn't like and he wanted to be famous. Greetings and salutations.
I don't think that's necessarily true. I don't know if fame was one of the motivations, but I think at the end of the day, the result being fame is just bad it's bad for everybody, right? Obviously it's going to happen. I do think that there's a certain kind of fame, like notoriety versus fame. I think what you want from this is notoriety, because notoriety is just when people know who you are and they have a knowledge. Fame is when they have the knowledge and they associate it with status. Like if you think about like notable people, you're not necessarily associating them with a level of like status and success. When you think about George Washington, you think notable, not famous, right? When you think MLK, you think notable, not famous. This person, he should be notable, not famous, but he is famous. He's a social media star, and that's not what you want.
Salutations, everyone. My name is Sean, and today we're going to talk about Taylor-Lorenz, who is over 40 at least, fawning over the Luigi Mangione guy, talking about how handsome he is and amazing he is and is so good and he's a revolutionary and all this other crazy nonsense as she praises, again, a vicious killer who is caught on video doing it. It is still alleged at this moment in time, and she talks about how, oh, she's gained a lot of audience during her time praising this
Doesn't she have a husband? That is actually an amazing question. I'm going to fact check that right now, because if anything, that would be the first thing that if I'm her husband, I'm writing on the reason for my divorce. Let's go. Actually, I mean, to be fair though, you have to ask, oh wow, yeah, so no, it looks like she is married. I don't know if this is true. It says this on her Wikipedia, but it could not be true. It might be true. Either way, I'd say that it's, you know, it's definitely awkward as a 30-something-year-old journalist on CNN to be fucking drooling over this 18 to 20-year-old guy who shot someone in the head. But you know, that's just me, okay? That's just maybe how the cookie crumbles, as they say. say? Notable versus famous is a perfect way of putting it. It was revolutionary, not influential. Yeah, exactly. I mean, exactly.
So it's all good, and because people agree with her, that's what makes it morally sound. And this is absolutely disgusting. So again, we're gonna break this down. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports.
And I think even if you're someone who sympathizes with Luigi Mangione and understands where he's coming from, which I think a lot of people do, I think you have to look at it with a certain type of lens. I think when you're looking at this sort of thing, it's important not to trivialize it. I think girls who think that they're raising awareness and bringing people into, a framework where they'd be wanting to look into Luigi Mangione's story, I think girls who post like these cat ear Snapchat filter photos of Luigi Mangione and are like, yeah, he's so hot. I think what they think they're doing the opposite of. I think when they think that they're bringing people into the fold, into the cause, into the know, they're doing the opposite. They're turning people off from wanting to learn about this because you're marketing it as a joke. And it's anything but a joke. I think when you reduce him down to a cock and a pretty face, you're committing basically suicide for your cause. At least to people who are genuinely interested in some kind of reform. You can't campaign on reform through hotness. That doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
This channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Oh, give me the money.
Anna Kasparian.
Give me the money.
Good to see you.
So I'm not one of those channels who looks into what Taylor Lorenz is doing all the time like a bunch of other people. I understand that she is somebody that a lot of people on the right have a problem with, and deservedly so based on everything that I've seen from her. But to be clear, this is not the first time that she's flirted with openly praising what Luigi Mangione did. And of course, there's a very famous clip of her doing so that was on the Piers Morgan show where she talked about how much joy.
Honestly, as a girl, the things people say about him are wild, and they don't even realize how weird it would be if it was the other way around. Well, that's a basic thing where there's a double standard between the way that men and women get sexualized. So I think that by itself, man versus woman, roles reversed. If you're saying things about a guy about, slobbering and drooling over him, you could not go vice versa without being called a gooner. So that's already something that we know to be the case. And I think there's reasons for that. I'm not gonna open that can of worms. But I think specifically in context, you realize how tasteless it is.
She felt when this guy murdered this United Healthcare CEO.
I do believe in the sanctity of.
Why is Acheeto watching this through Actual Justice Warrior instead of directly reacting to CNN and giving us his opinion unfiltered? Because AJW has compiled a lot of different clips of her talking about this and has made it more viewable for me. And I don't know the entire CNN clip, so. I also skate copyright claims because I think if I just do CNN Raw Dog React, they might claim it, where if another YouTuber talks about it, I kind of assume that they've already screened it for copyright, so I know that I'm clean. It's like 2 layers of transformative, so.
Life, and I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy, unfortunately, because it feels like.
Serious?
I mean,
joy in a man's execution?
Maybe not joy, but certainly not empathy. Because again,
we're watching the footage. How can this make you joyful? This guy's a husband, he's a father, and he's being gunned down in the middle of Manhattan. Why does that make you joyful?
So again, I am not surprised in any way, shape, or form to see her doubling down on this and to see her pandering to all the people who find Luigi so sexy that they gotta show up to his court dates and try to write letters of love. And
I will say, in general, it's very morbid to hear anyone respond that the death of another human in this way in modern times is bringing them joy. It really has to be a legitimately to the bones sick and demented person to where you can say this brought me joy. But even if it's someone fucked up, like even if it's a killer, let's say it's a person who shot and took the lives of like 10 people, watching that person get shot in the head, the adjective that you feel from that being joy, I think is already it's a bad choice of words. I think maybe catharsis or justice. Joy is the kind of thing that when you're 10, you get from watching like the Minions movie. That's the feeling that gets captured. Joy is it's almost a juvenile word where it feels too, I don't like the positive emotion being assigned to it, where it should be a certain amount of like complete neutrality and balancing things out. I think assigning a positive emotion rather than like an equalizer I think that's wrong.
And support to him, even though what he did was commit a horrific murder. murder. Again, allegedly, because he has yet to be convicted. But I find this especially ridiculous because Taylor Lorenz's other most famous clip, in my opinion, is her going on TV and complaining about how all these people, these online harassers, they go after her, and they might even be...
This guy killed thousands, but whenever people die, I suppose. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm not saying that he didn't deserve some sort of punishment, or that... I literally said, I've been saying this the whole time, that retaliation was imminent. I'm saying that when you as a journalist are congratulating, or not congratulating, it's not that, it's specifically the word I find joy in the loss of someone's life by vigilante execution. Like, I think that that's a terrible precedent to set. Joy, not justice, joy. There's a difference. There just is.
Willing to direct violence at her just because they disagree with her. And then again, she cried during that.
It seems unprofessional. Well, not only that, it's also just it's telling of a character flaw
segment.
You feel like any little piece of information that gets out on you will be used by the worst people on the internet to destroy your life. And it's so isolating
and terrifying.
It's horrifying. I'm so sorry. It's overwhelming. It's really hard internet to destroy your life. And it's so isolating.
And then you just turn it off.
Terrifying.
It's horrifying. It's overwhelming. It's really hard.
So yeah, you take this person right here who thinks that you guys should be censored if you disagree with her, because you might in the abstract encourage people to go after her. That might lead to potentially violence down the road for her, which, by the way, I would completely denounce if that were to occur, because obviously violence is not how we engage with our political system. But if somebody actually does commit violence, then Taylor Lorenz will go all over television, go on all these different various shows, write multiple different articles about how he's so handsome, he's so famous, he's so morally good, he's a revolutionary.
Right.
She's really turned on by him, and honestly, everybody else should...
I wonder how she responded to the Trump assassination attempt. Let's just take a look at this. Taylor Lorenz, Trump... Oh, wow. Hold on. CNN takes heat for journalistic maleficence after airing Taylor Lorenz fawning over Luigi Mangione. Oh, okay, never mind. That's what we that's what we're looking at now. Let's just take a peek at this. Let's take a peek.
Those are your words. So you felt joy.
Oh, interesting. What is this? Taylor Lorenz on Fox News refuming. Okay, here, maybe this could be something. Okay. Taylor Lorenz apparently is refusing to condemn what she said about fawning over Luigi Mangione.
You feel joy. Those are your words. So you felt joy over the murder.
Why is she nodding? We literally saw this on Piers Morgan, and she's shaking her head. No, we just saw this!
You feel joy. Those are your words.
Oh,
so
no, bitch. Don't you bitch, nah! No, because this is what pisses me off. Journalists, when they have the evidence, and then she'll be like, I feels like anything you say will be used to ruin your life. Well, it's like, yeah, you just said that you felt joy watching a dude get shot in the head, and now you're acting like this was never said. I'm sorry. Was the ghost of Christmas past possessing you when you said those things? Because I don't think so.
You feel joy. Those are your words. So you felt joy over the murder of this father. No, those are the words you use. You can shake your head all you want.
No,
we have the tape. We have the tape. And number one, then you go on to say, and people wonder why we want these executives dead. Then you posted an image of the Blue Cross CEO, Kim Keck. Now, let me ask you, what part of this United Healthcare CEO being a father and a husband don't you understand? And what part of you having a choice of what healthcare provider you choose to deal with or not do you not understand?
I think that what he's saying, Sean Hannity, is a little bit not the best representation of what we should be focusing on. I don't think when you look at malpractice and then you say, well, why didn't you just go to somebody else who wasn't doing malpractice, when oftentimes, you know, people are swindled and manipulated into going with certain providers and then they get fucked, you know? Like, I think if you have an insurance provider that you're paying and then you later on learn that they're fucking you, it takes a long time that people don't have, money that people don't have to switch providers. So to say like, oh, you should have just switched providers instead of killing him, well, it's like, okay, people can't just switch providers like that. Like, if it was that easy, we wouldn't have people that are angry at the healthcare system. Like, if there was ease in this system and if it worked better, then people would be less angry. I think he's just kind of making a point that doesn't necessarily reflect the reality of people's ability to get treated properly.
Because you don't have to go with United. You don't have to go with Blue Cross.
So let me just be extra clear. Never did I say that I felt joy in his death. I said very explicitly, if you
What, the video?
play the full segment, and actually people can watch that segment on my YouTube in full, not the edited version that Piers showed. I said that I felt joy, along with millions of other Americans, that the brutality of our healthcare system was finally being acknowledged.
I don't believe that's what she said, guys. I don't think that's what she said. Let's take a peek at the clip. Hold on a second. I'm a little bit concerned that we might be being lied to. Let's take a peek. Hold on.
Other Americans, joy.
This
I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy, unfortunately, you know, because it feels like I do believe in the sanctity of life. And I think that's why.
Wait, but it's not taken out of context. There is no cut. She says there's a cut. There isn't a cut. I'm looking at this. There's not a cut. There's no edit. What's the edit?
I believe that our current healthcare system is murderous, right? I mean, we have uninsured Americans with a 40% higher risk of death compared to insured counterparts.
Taylor,
Nearly 70,000 Americans die
that's
each
not
year
the topic.
due to lack of health insurance.
Okay, Hannity, it is the topic, though. She's kind of gish galloping, but it is the topic.
Taylor, that's not the topic. If you can talk about healthcare, I don't like the healthcare system either, and a lot of people have experienced frustration, like you're saying. That, to me, is separate and apart from the debate of praising, calling handsome, smart, intelligence, being joyful over the death and assassination of innocent people. And that's what your comments did. Your comments basically put your seal of approval on murder and assassination. And I'm trying to understand whether you like this guy, like the way he does business or not, you're advocating and putting a smiley face on assassination. And I'm trying to understand what is in your soul that
It's so funny. If I met this, like, if I could go back in time to when I met this person, I would be like, please double down on this so I can get more content. Please go crazy. Taylor, in December 2024, a rogue vigilante will take the life of a healthcare company CEO. Please double down on this take. Good things will happen for me.
Doesn't understand he's a father and a husband here. What are you missing? There seems to be a missing chip with you.
Sean, if you'd like to hear, I will need to talk in order to explain.
I don't want the rationalization. I want you to think about what you said. Explain what you said.
What I said.
Damn. She getting pissed right now. You got to speak up for yourself.
Again, I'm attempting to right now, so I'd ask you to please give the space and try
give me the talking stick.
to listen here. As I said once again, never did I say I felt joy that this man died. I said again that I felt joy that millions of Americans or millions of really wealthy Americans and privileged Americans are forced to wake up to the reality that nearly 70,000 Americans die each year due to lack of health insurance.
No, that's not what happened.
Forcing that millions of I'm attempting to right now, so I'd ask you to please.
All right. Listen to what she says.
Give the space and try to listen here.
Listen.
As I said once again, never did I say I felt joy that this man died. I said again that I felt joy.
Listen.
That millions of Americans or millions of really wealthy Americans and privileged Americans are forced to wake up to the reality that nearly 70,000 Americans die each year.
That's not what's happening. That's not what's happening at all. That's not what's happening at all. The assassination of Brian Thompson did not lead to more Americans thinking about the rates of which people are uninsured. It resulted most of what happened. Okay, I'll tell you what happened. People looked at his motivations. They understood what happened for the most part. They understood that although perhaps assassination wasn't the route to go with, that there is a reason for what happened. And I also think wealthy Americans are not the ones that are thinking about this, because what are wealthy Americans themselves going to do? If you are making money, what does that have to do with the rates in which people are uninsured? There's no relationship there, really. If I make money and my friend doesn't, I'm not going to think about the fact that his healthcare insurance provider might not be as good as mine. That's just not a thought that crosses my mind. But also, as I've said, there is many fucking, especially women online, that are just drooling and simping over this guy, that it completely dilutes the message. It completely dilutes the message.
Due to lack of health insurance. I do feel joyful that that is an issue that's being talked about.
Okay, you're back to the healthcare debate. Why would any human being with a conscience and soul be joyful over an assassination of any person? Why would anybody be joyful over that?
Well, actually, that's a good question. Why don't I explain?
It's a great question.
The other clip.
So the other clip that you played is not me saying my own beliefs. I have quite different beliefs from that. What I'm describing, and if you watch the full segment, not just the clip, you'll see that I'm describing the mentality of these fangirls that show up outside Luigi's court and show up outside his jail cell. Those girls are not me, okay? We have very separate beliefs. Systems, but I was describing how they believe. And now let me explain to you why people in America feel this way. People in America feel this way, and they feel outraged because, again, every penny of the $22 billion in profit made by United Health was made at the expense and suffering of others. And that is violence. Our healthcare system is also violent. And that is a violence that people in the mainstream media, such as yourself, continue to refuse to acknowledge. So if you're going to talk about death and violence, it's
Taylor,
crucial to talk about the death and violence.
She's right. She's also retarded.
Of our healthcare system. Pardon?
There's a better
She's the worst spokesperson for the argument she just made.
way than saying that Luigi Mangione is a revolutionary who's famous, handsome, young, smart,
That is what those people believe. That is what those people believe.
And seems like he's a morally good man. If you want to have legitimate...
That's what you said in the CNN piece. This is not what other people said. I'm just voicing what other people think. You think that as well. You were gushing for this guy. Right message, wrong person. I'd say 70 to 60% right message and 100% wrong person.
Criticism. You could write an intelligent piece saying, here is what's wrong with America's healthcare system. Like, for example, I want healthcare savings accounts. I would like to see more of the use of telemedicine. I believe in healthcare cooperatives. I know one that works. Josh Umber, Atlas MD, average person, 24-hour.
All right, so now he's just, okay, bro, we just shouting out our homies' businesses on air. I mean, it's fucking just free promo, I guess.
Concierge
Sean
care,
Hannity,
$50 a month. There are better ways to do it. That's a
literally just on company time, just shouting out his friend's healthcare company or whatever.
legitimate.
Problem is, if people don't want to learn about the healthcare system or work to try to fix it, they just want to talk about how Luigi looks. Well, the reality is, the actual conversation that needs to be had about this, there's about 5 things that we have to talk about before we talk about that. And then with how divided and fucked up the discourse is in this country, we will never be able to even reach that point. And that is exactly what the people that are actually fucking Americans up want. They just want us to be arguing about nothing before we even get to the point where we can seriously have a discussion about the system, reform. And as of right now, I'm probably playing some kind of a part in that topic, about before we have to get to the real discussions. And frankly, part of that is because I don't know how to have the real discussion. I'm not equipped to have it. I don't know much about the healthcare system. I don't know about the nuances. I'm still on my parents' healthcare plan. And so ultimately, if we are to have a discussion like that, it's going to have to be adults like this and journalists like this seriously having the deep dive that has to be had in order for any progress to take place,
Debate. But that's not how you're saying it. You're saying it in ways that are sympathetic to the people that are taking action.
I'm describing
handsome, good
the
looking.
belief
This is why
system
people
of his
are happy and
supporters.
joyful.
I'm describing the belief system of his supporters, Sean. Oh.
Why don't you condemn them?
Hello?
Will you say that anyone that praises this guy is lacking a soul, a conscience, and a heart? Do you agree with that statement?
Obviously, she's going to find a way to probably say no.
Well, what I will say, Sean, once again, is that I believe in free
I just asked you a very
speech.
direct question. Will you say that anyone that's praising this guy doesn't have a soul, a conscience, and a heart?
Well, the problem is that praise can come in many forms, and I think people that are giving some sort of credence or recognition to the cause and the reasons for why he did what he did, I don't think those people do not have a soul, or they don't have hearts. I don't think that's true. Honestly, I disagree with this question here. I would say no.
I don't believe in things like, religious things like souls
I'm
and
not
all of these
asking
things.
about religious. If you can't have sympathy for a dead father and husband, do you lack a conscience, a soul, and a heart? That's a simple question. You're a smart woman.
Well, let me respond to you, Sean. I believe that every one of the 70,000 Americans that die each year because of lack of health insurance also has a heart.
You're back to healthcare and not answering my question. I've done this 29 years, Taylor. Answer the question. If you think it's okay and you celebrate assassination, are you lacking a conscience, a soul, and a heart?
I think
it's just not I just don't think that that's the gotcha question you want to be going with, because ultimately there's just so much nuance here. And I think that there's a difference between praising someone and then simping for them. I think if you're simping for someone, I think that you've completely lost the plot. But I think if you're praising someone, okay, yeah, we can just ban this guy. I think if you're looking at the reason for someone who did something that's heavily controversial, and then you get to a point where you somewhat sympathize or can at least understand what's happened, I don't think you're lacking of those things.
Once again, you're conflating me explaining the ideology of the women that
you are trying to rationalize them. If you support assassination, Taylor, answer the question. If you support assassination of innocent people,
are you lacking a soul? I mean,
are you lacking a conscience, a soul, and a heart? Simple question. Go.
I believe that the assassination of innocent people, if we want to talk about the assassination of innocent people, I believe that the tens of thousands of Americans that die each year because of the lack of health insurance, that is, to me, a violence in itself. That is assassination. These health insurance.
I'm willing to have that discussion with you, but we can't have that discussion until you say.
You can't have a discussion when you're not willing to hear, Sean, what my beliefs are, and you
condemn people that have been committing acts of. Do you condemn the people that tried to assassinate Donald Trump, or would it be a good thing in your mind, or would you understand why people want to kill him?
The problem is that you have to look at these things as isolated instances where there's obviously vastly different reasons for each one. And so I don't think that if you're like, well, if someone would assassinate this person, would you say that that's okay? Just like how you said it was okay for this person? Well, obviously it's a lot different because there are infinitely different amounts of things that make up the reasoning for each, specific assassination or attempt. So I can't think you can't look at both of these and decide or say that, one of them is comparable to another one. You just can't.
Understand why people want to kill Elon Musk. You understand them too? Are they handsome people too? Smart people?
Well, so let me actually talk to you a little bit about that. So I cover violent extremism. I've witnessed violent extremism for many different factions, right, of the political system. If, for instance, somebody shows up and shoots an abortion provider dead, I want to understand their ideology. I'm a reporter. I want to understand their belief system, and I want to understand what led them there. Now, let me tell you something, because it's interesting you bring up the assassination of Donald Trump.
If you resort to violence and you kill innocent people, are you lacking a conscience, soul, and a heart?
I think the argument, though, is that Brian Thompson or Donald Trump or whatever these people, whoever it may be, the argument is that they wouldn't be innocent. Like, this is obviously this fundamental difference between these people, is that this person thinks that there's innocence and this person doesn't think there's innocence, obviously.
What's so hard? Why can't you answer that question?
Well, once again, when you talk about souls, that's not really my specialty. But what I do specialize in is extremism.
Obviously.
We are at a time right now.
By the way, I would say that's obvious.
Okay, thank you. Well, we are at a time right now when we're witnessing actually one of the biggest memes on the internet right now is about assassinating Trump and Elon. These are posts with millions of likes that are advocating for the assassination of the president.
Simple question. Do you condemn that? Can you take a moral stand and condemn that?
I mean, this is just, can you do this? Maybe or no, and it's just we're not getting anywhere, unfortunately.
What I condemn is the violence of our system, and I would love for you to acknowledge that.
I'm not asking you to condemn the system. Taylor, do you condemn people that call for assassination?
Gosh, you're going to ask if I condemn Hamas next. This is crazy. I would love for you to acknowledge what I'm actually saying, Sean, and we seem to be talking past each other. I want to talk about the fact that half of all adults delayed because of cost. We need to talk about that 70% of Americans, by the way, believe that the insurance company practices are responsible in part for Thompson's death. These are signs.
We should talk about that. I would agree with her when she says that.
You want to put a rationalization. I am saying anybody that wants to assassinate.
I think it's a separate conversation. I think both of these people are not really getting anywhere, to be honest. But I think that clip was pretty bad. Her manic eyes disturb. Might be onto something. Two idiots arguing? Yeah, maybe.